The international student population is highly diverse, which means that their experiences and knowledge about counseling vary considerably. Given this diversity and variability, counselors need to consider how they approach working with international students. And I'm going to share with you 3 key practice points from my work with international students. The first practice point is that counselors need to be prepared to adapt the way that they meet their international student clients' needs given the diversity of this population. So for example, language abilities and system knowledge. There is no standard level of English language ability, and for some international students, English will be their first language, while for others it may be their second, third, or fourth. Even for those who seem to have a high level of fluency, they may not be familiar with mental health specific vocabulary and concepts. For those with lower levels of fluency, the effort of explaining their experiences in another language can be an added stressor. Consider using simple English when starting to ensure their comprehension, and then adjust quickly as you and your client get to know their level better. If you are unsure about what simple English means, try comparing the standard Wikipedia page and the simple English Wikipedia page of the same topic. As well, counselors cannot assume that fluency means that international student clients understand the local systems, such as the healthcare system. They may need you to provide explanations that seem like common sense to really help coordinate their care. The key takeaway point here is that going too fast, too slow, too complex, or too simple could potentially affect your rapport with your international student clients, so you need to get and stay on the same page. One way to do this is to normalize checking in on their understanding of the session and the facilitation of the session, so that you can inform how to adapt your approach. The second practice point takes the adaptive approach that we just discussed and applies it specifically to the informed consent process. Again, as international students have diverse backgrounds, their familiarity and comfort with sharing personal information will also vary. Many international students, particularly those from countries with less ethical oversight from government and professional bodies, may have very real hesitations about disclosing personal information as they're not sure how counselors will use it. For example, some might worry that counselors will share information about their mental health to immigration services and that doing so could then jeopardize their student status. I like to take a step back from assuming that international students have trust in the system and make space for very specific questions around who has access to their information, how it is stored, and the interpretation of the limits to confidentiality. I sometimes preemptively send the informed consent document to new international student clients so that they can review before the session and think of any questions at their own pace. During discussions about informed consent, I make it clear that I value their questioning of how counseling works, as this sets the stage for how transparent they will be in session. If they feel rushed through this process, or as if we're not taking their concerns as seriously as they do, then they might withdraw from the counseling process or withhold key insights about their experience, which will really hinder your ability to work together. A critical takeaway from this practice point is that informed consent is a process and not a one-time discussion. For example, after sharing an experience that is emotionally charged or includes key people in their lives, some international students may need to know the specifics of what you will and will not include in your session notes. If you can establish and maintain trust in the counseling process, this will support you both in working together collaboratively. The third practice point brings in elements of the previous 2 points around being adaptive and establishing trust in order to navigate your role and relationship with international student clients. International students are highly resourced individuals with many strengths, And at the same time, they're in a new context where these resources and strengths may look different to what they're used to. Relatedly, if the international student clients are not well established in their new community yet, they may need temporary connection. In my experience, I have found that my role and relationship with international student clients can sometimes look different to domestic students, as there's a need for me to help facilitate their resources, strengths, and connection in this new context. In some instances, I may see myself acting in ways that might be over-functioning for other clients and that are not pure counseling interventions. For example, helping to facilitate clients around their advocacy skills by helping them to draft emails to university ombudspeople about issues with their academic experience that's causing them emotional distress. For instance, if they've been accused of academic dishonesty. A key takeaway point here is that international student clients may come to see you as an important and close relationship where you provide some support and care that might typically be taken up by friends and family. As such, it's really critical that you be aware of how to be adaptive in supporting your international student clients while also maintaining trust around the professional boundaries of your relationship with them. If you can do this, you will meet your clients where they are at while supporting their agency. These practice points share the common thread that counselors cannot adjust or explain once and then assume their approach is appropriate. But instead, these considerations need to be ongoing and explicit. By working with your international students where they're at in terms of their language ability, counseling knowledge, concerns about the process, and whatever else is important to them, counselors can help to build strong rapport. With this foundational consideration, you will then both be set up well to engage in the deeper counseling work with trust in the process and goals that are aligned to your international student client.